guys, how's it going? And welcome to the channel. In this video, I'd like to share to you all things about Entryway, my 5 key essentials, also my aesthetic and feng shui element to help elevate your space, and lastly, I'm going to share to you on how I styled and will style my Entryway because I'm going to do not a makeover, but more of a tiny reset to have a bit of a refresh.
Entryway is essential because it is the transitional space from the outside world to your home, and it kind of sets a tone to your home. So it's always important to have a nice entryway that is cozy and welcoming for yourself and for your guests alike. And apart from that, there's just a lot of functional practicality into having an entryway. Last year when we were house hunting, we didn't realize that we needed an entryway actually, because it was only when we saw a lot of these apartments wherein you open a door and you immediately go into the living area, and it's just kind of jarring. So I think having an entryway is just important to have this kind of a calming pause, like to have a buffer as you come from the outside world and into the home. The first on the list is a clutter-free entryway, and it sounds so basic, I know, but based on my personal experience, I've noticed that entryway is one of the more neglected space of the entire apartment. Like for a lot of people, they focus on the living room and the bedroom, and entryway can easily become a space for storage. And it's quite common to see actually that I see a lot of all these surfaces full of boxes of extra paper bags or tote bags or whatever it is, but it just becomes a pile of mess, and that's not good for feng shui, because in feng shui, entryway is the first entry point of the qi to come to your home, and you want to bring in those positive energy, and those clutter just blocks that qi. So that's why it's important to have a clutter-free entryway. And also I have a couple of things I want to share. My issue with hooks, we used to have a lot of hooks in our previous apartment. We installed it, and I think for hooks, I think you want to be more mindful. I know that it has a lot of functionality and practicality, but also my take is that don't abuse it. I think it's easy to just put all your coats and jackets and hats and caps and small bags, big bags, tote bags, just easy access, and eventually it just becomes a clutter, especially if there's like multiple people in your home. And so for me, if you're going to have hooks, I think try to use it as minimal as possible. And in our case, actually, we decided not to really have hooks here because there's a closet that's not too far, and it's just a few seconds away from the entryway. So it's like a little bit of effort, but it makes the entryway clutter-free, so why not? And the other thing is that have like a console table with drawers as much as possible, because otherwise, again, if you have so many shelves in your entryway, try not to abuse it. Try not to put all your clutter. It should be something that's decorative and functional and more organized, which is going to be our second point, which is a smart storage solution. These are my examples of a smart storage solution based on our lifestyle. So basically, you need to make sure it fits your lifestyle as well. So number one is to have a shoe rack, and this is going to be really essential for us here in China because it's quite common to not have your shoes on when you enter into a home. It's just a common practice, so shoe rack is very important. And for a lot of people, they like to use either a decorative bowl or a tray to put their stuff as a drop zone. But for me, I prefer it to have a lid on. And this was a gift from my friend, and it's a jar where I put my keys, like my push bike keys, because I don't drive here in Shanghai, and also my partner's e-bike keys. They're all here. And for our sunnies, it's actually hidden away behind this picture frame. As you can see, because we do have a limited space, and it's important to just be creative as much as we can. And because we do have a dog, we have a dedicated basket for her underneath the stool. That's where we store all her leash, harness, wet wipes, and whatnot. We are lucky that we're able to have an additional shoe rack outside our home, outside the apartment, as well as where we put our umbrella stand. And because where we live, it's, I guess, based on what we saw from our neighbors, it's quite common practice to also just leave extra shoe rack outside the home for additional space. But it's us, and we are just quite lucky. The third essential is to have a stool or a bench if you have the space for its functional and practical purposes, really, to put on or take off your shoes. And at the same time, I feel that having a stool or a bench just creates this calm transition, calm pause as you enter into your apartment. And at the same time, actually, for aesthetic purposes, the wood just adds a nice warmth to the space. The fourth is having a mirror. It has a lot of benefits and functionality. The first one is more obvious. You're able to check yourself out as you venture into the world. Number two is, for us, especially because we do have a narrow entryway, the mirror helps to have the illusion of a much bigger of a space as it's able to add depth. And number three, feng shui wise, it's also good to have a mirror by your entryway because it helps to distribute the qi to your home. And there's a rule, however, not to have it opposite of your door because otherwise it'll just bounce back the qi, the positive qi outside. The last one is to have a rug. It adds the coziness and warmth to the space and also for a lot of practical reasons. But make sure that you also have a doormat outside of your home. That's where you actually use it to wipe your shoes for dirt and debris, especially when it's raining. That would be the first line of defense, and this would be the second. Now here are three aesthetic elements that you can use to elevate your space: arts, lamps, and plants. And these three are actually a great combination as well if you're going to style any surface. For example, if you're in doubt on what to put on your table, these three are a great combination. I've done it behind the lounge area, and also I've done it here above the shoe rack. One thing about me is that I'm into arts like photography and painting, and I do like to fill my walls with my personal art pieces, and I feel it's more personal and just brings character to the space. And this one in particular is a photo that I've taken more than 10 years ago, I think, and is by the beach, and there's a particular feng shui reason as well. So in feng shui, you want to have a water element, and it can be an actual running water like a fountain or a symbolism of the water element, and ideally it should be a running or flowing water. For example, this is a beach and the wave is coming towards inside the apartment, and that's also something that you want to consider if you're into feng shui. The flow of the water should be going into the apartment as it represents wealth and abundance going into your home. On my right side, ideally in terms of composition, I should have a bigger artwork, but honestly this was a nice present from our friends and I feel it's more personal, so that's why it's staying here. Lamps and plants. Lamps, obviously it brings light and it brings coziness to the space. I do have actually a video on lighting and lamps, so please check it out. I'm going to put it somewhere here. And lastly, plants. So plants, it's always good, right? It brings life, something organic to the space, and it's also good feng shui. However, in feng shui also, there are a couple of big no-nos when it comes to plant. Number one is to have something like pointy, like sharp, like a cacti. So that's not really good for feng shui because it represents disharmony and stress and brings negative energy. And the other one is to have like dead plants. It also represents like negative energy, so that's why in feng shui it's not exactly encouraged. However, there is a loophole. Like for example, this winter berry is a loophole. It's not exactly alive, but when it was still alive, it's still in this state, so it doesn't look dead. So that's kind of like the loophole in feng shui when it comes to plants. I'm going to do a bit of a refresh and reset, mainly just the surface of the shoe rack, and I'm going to explain to you shortly why. But first, let us go back on how I styled the entryway. So when we first moved in, there was already this mounted mirror, so which is a good thing. We don't have to think about it. And this is also one of the reasons why my options for shoe rack was a little bit limited. So one, if I had a choice, I would rather have a much longer of a shoe rack because I do have a lot of shoes, me and my partner. And also because of this door frame, I prefer the shoe rack to not go beyond it and not to protrude too much, because otherwise it'll just be too obstructive from this narrow of a pathway. And when it comes to selecting the stool, the basket, and the rug, I prefer to have a warm tone just to make it more cozy and to have it'll match the color palette of the entire living space. Speaking of, when it comes to the color palette, as you can see, the primary and secondary color here in our apartment are the white and the beige and the different kinds of wood tone, and 10% should be the accent color, and in our case I chose a bit of red and green as the accent color, which is based out of the painting. And now in that case, however, the majority proportion of the color is from the accent color, so that's why I'm finding it hard to style it, and that's why I'm going to reverse as much as I can by adding more neutral color on the surface. Alright, so here we are. I feel that is much better. The look is more clean, streamlined, and more cohesive, because before there were like too many colors and I feel like it was just clashing with each other. But now I think it's much more calm and tamer. What do you think? And there you have it. I hope you like this video, and if you do like it, please give me a thumbs up, and feel free to give me any comments or suggestions. I would love us to learn from each other, and I'll see you in the next video.